We have a really crucial pair of Game 2s tonight, but we're going to start our show with breaking news. Sandy Brondello out as head coach of the New York Liberty. In a statement released by the team, it says in part, quote, Sandy finishes her tenure in New York as the winningest coach in franchise history, and she took us to never-seen-before heights as the first head coach to lead the Liberty to a championship. They ended by saying, we wish Sandy the very best.
Out of the blue, the WNBA pulled a shocking move, cutting ties with Sandy Brondello, the very coach who just guided the Liberty to their first ever championship. The press release was the usual polished line, we wish her well, but here's where it gets wild. Behind the scenes, the whispers are turning into shouts. Many believe her job ended not because of performance, but because she openly praised Caitlin Clark. Yes, you heard that right. Giving Clark her flowers may have been the very thing that cost a title-winning coach her seat.
Sandy Brondello is out on the market. We got a shark out on the market. This is wild news. Sandy Brondello has been fired by the New York Liberty in shocking fashion. This is on ESPN. Breaking: New York Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello's contract will not be renewed for the 2026 season. The team announced the organization will begin the search for its next coach immediately. So we got Noelle Quinn gone. Sandy Brondello gone. I think the Indiana Fever need to take a look at this. I think, look, it's not too late to fix the mistake.
Let's be real, this needs to be talked about before the whole story gets swept under the rug. Do you honestly think Sandy Brondello lost her job just because she praised Caitlin Clark? Or was this simply New York smashing the panic button? Either way, this isn't your standard season's over, coaches out situation. We're talking about the winningest coach in Liberty history, pushed out less than a year after giving the franchise the championship fans had been waiting on for decades. And the way it happened, ice cold. One short statement, no heads up, no respect.
WNBA history, all time, to win a title with multiple franchises and her 40 playoff wins. They are the second most all-time behind Cheryl.
Let's hit rewind for a moment. Sandy Brondello wasn't just another coach passing through New York. She was the architect of this whole thing. She's the one who took that loaded roster, Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, and actually turned it into a championship machine. Before Brondello, the Liberty were just an expensive collection of stars without a real identity. With her, they became champions, and normally, that kind of success buys you security, right? Not here. Instead, the Liberty dropped the news like it was nothing. We thank Sandy for her contributions and wish her the best moving forward. That's corporate speak for we're done, and don't ask why. But here's the part nobody seems to be talking about.
You never want to see a player get injured, and a player like Caitlin coming back has had a few injuries this year. She's a great player. It would have been good for our club to see her, but hopefully we'll get to see her out there close to the start. Get to play them again. As for the All-Star, I'm excited to get to know her a little bit. I think that's the part of being a star. It's going to coach players that we haven't coached before and get them to know them a little bit and enjoy the whole celebration.
She's moved the needle on everything. TV ratings, ticket sales, even jersey demand. But in today's WNBA politics, praising Caitlin Clark has somehow become controversial. Some players feel overshadowed. Some coaches act like giving her credit takes away from their own stars. Sandy Brondello, she didn't play along. She gave Clark her flowers publicly, and that didn't sit well with a lot of people, especially in New York, where the Liberty's brand is built around their own super team. Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and Sabrina Ionescu. They want the spotlight locked on them, not Clark. But Brondello said what everyone else was too scared to admit. Caitlin Clark has changed the league. And right after that, boom, she's gone. Fans didn't need long to connect the dots.
Liberty just fired their head coach. People are confused as to why, because they won the championship last year. They made the playoffs this year. In sports, there's always a scapegoat when things aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Clearly, in New York, the standard has been raised. As Coach Tibbs learned with the New York Knicks, making the playoffs does not guarantee that you are safe anymore. They have raised the standard. They're sending a message to the fans, to the team, saying, we don't want to just go to the playoffs. We need to go to the finals and we need to win. So if it's not the players on the court that are changing, it's got to be the coaching staff. So unfortunately, that did mean Coach.
Let's make one thing clear. Officially, the Liberty tried to spin Sandy Brondello's firing as a performance decision. Championship or bust. That was the standard. And when New York slipped in the postseason, the front office claimed it was time for a change. But here's the problem with that narrative. If this was only about wins and losses, why did their own press release go out of its way to highlight that she was the winningest coach in franchise history? Why mention her playoff record? Why praise her leadership? You don't hype someone up like that if you're letting them go purely for results. That's the kind of language you use when the real reason is something else. And that something else was her comments about Caitlin Clark. Multiple insiders say Liberty ownership didn't appreciate Brondello publicly praising Clark's impact. In a league where plenty of veteran stars have rolled their eyes at Clark's attention, having your own head coach call her a generational talent, that was viewed as disloyal. Think about it. Earlier this year, Brondello said outright that Clark makes everyone around her better, basically calling her the new standard. You know who probably didn't love hearing that? The Liberty's own stars. Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, players who believe they should be the standard. Stewart didn't clap back publicly, but the silence spoke volumes. And New York's front office wasn't about to risk making their cornerstone players feel like second options. So the writing was on the wall. You can deliver a championship. You can be the most successful coach the Liberty have ever had. But if you praise the wrong player at the wrong moment, suddenly you're out. This isn't about basketball anymore. It's about politics. And that's what has fans furious. Because Brondello didn't just win games. She brought stability to a franchise that used to be chaos. She kept egos in check, dealt with non-stop media scrutiny, and managed sky-high expectations. Most teams would beg for a coach like that, but the Liberty tossed her aside because she didn't stick to the script. And here's the irony. The WNBA keeps saying it wants to grow the game. Well, the growth is already here, and her name is Caitlin Clark. The proof is in the numbers. Attendance, ratings, ticket sales, headlines, they all skyrocket when Clark is involved. Let's not sugarcoat it. Ignoring the truth here is pure denial. All Sandy Brondello did was state the obvious. But instead of embracing reality, the league and certain franchises treat praising Caitlin Clark like it's some kind of betrayal. And that insecurity just cost New York the best coach they've had in years. Now let's talk about legacy. Brondello didn't just win in New York, but she built a resume that stacks up with the greatest. She delivered a title in Phoenix, making her one of only 2 coaches in WNBA history to win championships with multiple franchises. 40 playoff victories, the second most ever. You don't luck into that kind of success. That's elite company, yet she gets tossed aside over petty politics. Fans have every reason to be shocked because this isn't just about one firing. It's the league sending a not so subtle warning. Compliment Clark too much and you could be next. Keep the spotlight on the approved stars or prepare for consequences. For a league that constantly talks about fairness and growing women's basketball, the optics are awful. Fans are already calling it out for what it is: insecurity. And honestly, they're right. And here's the kicker. Becky Hammon, head coach of the rival Las Vegas Aces, basically blasted the move. She called Brondello a quality person and a quality coach. Translation: New York botched this badly. When even your fiercest rivals are defending the coach you just dumped, you know the decision was a disaster. To make matters worse, Liberty stars like Brianna Stewart had just publicly voiced their support for Brondello right before the news broke. So if your MVP level players are backing the coach and ownership still pushes her out, what does that tell you? Simple. This wasn't about results on the court. It was about image, control, and politics. Fans aren't clueless. The second the news dropped, social media lit up with people connecting the dots. The timing was just too perfect. Brondello praises Caitlin Clark. The Liberty fall short in the playoffs, and suddenly she's gone. If this was really about performance, why not fire her last year when the so-called super team lost in the finals? Why only now, right after her pro-Clark comments went viral? Exactly. The puzzle pieces lock in too neatly, and this goes beyond just New York. The entire league is watching. Coaches are paying attention. Players are paying attention. And the message being sent is dangerous. Step outside the approved script and your job could be on the line. That doesn't inspire growth. It breeds fear, and fear is the last thing a league chasing mainstream relevance should want. Looking ahead, Brondello isn't finished. Her resume is too strong, her respect in the game too deep. Seattle has a vacancy. Expansion teams will need proven leadership. Don't be shocked if she's back on a sideline sooner than later. But New York, they've created a mess. Whoever takes this job next walks straight into a pressure cooker. Championship or bust. Don't give credit to the wrong opposing star. Don't irritate ownership. Don't make a single misstep. That's not freedom to coach. That's a trap. And as for Caitlin Clark, none of this is on her. She didn't ask for it. She's simply hooping, breaking records in year 2, and lifting the league's profile across the board. Yet somehow her name keeps getting dragged into controversies she never created. That's the real shame. Instead of celebrating the fact that Clark's presence boosts everyone, including Liberty ticket sales whenever Indiana rolls into town, the league's ecosystem has turned her into a dividing line. And now, Brondello is the latest casualty. Officially, the Liberty called this a mutual lease parting. Please, that's PR language for a one-sided breakup dressed up to look clean. Sandy Brondello didn't spend decades building a Hall of Fame resume, winning titles in multiple cities, and cementing herself as one of the most successful coaches in league history, just to suddenly wake up and say, I'm done? No, this was the franchise pulling the trigger. And once again, the timing says it all. The Liberty's season had just ended, emotions were still high, and instead of taking time for a calm off-season review, the front office pulled the trigger, firing the coach who had given them exactly what they wanted. Why so fast? Why right now? Fans know the answer: control. And Sandy Brondello's open praise of Caitlin Clark, the one player already making too many veterans uncomfortable, was the final straw. And if you think that's just speculation, look at the pattern. Clark's name has sparked tension all year long. Opponents have body-checked her, mocked her, complained about the spotlight she gets. Coaches have thrown shade in interviews. Even referees have been accused of holding her to a different standard. Through all that noise, Brondello dared to do the unthinkable. She praised Clark. She called her transformative. She credited her for bringing new fans to the league. That was all it took. Here's the irony: Brondello wasn't lying. The Indiana Fever went from an afterthought to must-see TV. Ratings shattered records. Road arenas sold out. Jerseys flew off the shelves. That surge didn't come from the Liberty, the Aces, or anyone else. It came from Caitlin Clark. Brondello simply acknowledged reality. Instead of embracing her honesty, the Liberty treated it like betrayal. And that's what makes this whole thing so ridiculous. You'd think franchises would want to ride the Clark wave, cash in on the exposure, and build momentum for the entire league. But instead, too many people in power would rather protect egos than embrace growth. And now New York looks petty for dumping a championship coach over a few words. Fans didn't hold back either. Social media exploded immediately. Liberty fans were furious. Fever fans were stunned. Neutral fans called the move flat out embarrassing. Even former players spoke up, saying Brondello deserved far better. And the real outrage wasn't just about the firing itself. It was about the reason behind it. People saw through the polished PR line and connected it straight back to Clark. Once that narrative stuck, the league's image took another massive hit. And right now, image is everything. The WNBA is trying to earn mainstream respect, secure prime TV slots, and keep its momentum alive. But instead of focusing on growth, they're playing political games over who you're allowed to compliment. That's not strategy. That's self-sabotage. So what's next for the Liberty? That's the big question. You don't cut ties with a championship coach without a bigger plan in place. Word around the league is that the Liberty are already scanning the market, maybe targeting NBA assistants, maybe going for a headline-grabbing hire. But here's the catch. No matter who they bring in, they can't erase the message this move just sent. Players see it, other coaches see it, the league sees it. Success and loyalty don't buy you security here. Step out of line, even slightly, and you're gone. And let's be real, this isn't just a front office decision. There's a locker room ripple effect. Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and Sabrina Ionescu had Brondello's trust. They believed in her system, in her leadership. If ownership thought firing her would somehow fix the culture, they might have just shattered it instead. Because how do you look your roster in the eye and say, go win another championship, when you just fired the woman who delivered the first one? As for Sandy Brondello, she walks away untarnished. Her resume speaks for itself. Seattle's looking. Expansion is on the horizon. Someone's going to hand her another team, because winners don't stay jobless for long. And if she ends up coming back to knock the Liberty out of the playoffs with a new squad, that would be poetic justice. But here's where it gets even messier. Caitlin Clark's name is lurking in the background of all this. Not because she asked for it, not because she wanted it, but because her presence magnifies everything. Every foul, every highlight, every quote connected to her explodes into headlines. Instead of embracing it, the league keeps resisting it. That's how you end up with absurd fallout like this, where a coach loses her job simply for giving Clark some praise. The bottom line? The WNBA can pretend all it wants, but Caitlin Clark isn't fading away. She's the storm they'll eventually have to face. She's only in her second year, and she's already transformed the league. Ratings keep climbing, arenas keep filling, kids keep rocking her jersey. You can shuffle coaches, spin narratives, or try to shift the spotlight, but the Clark effect is bigger than all of it. Firing Brondello doesn't kill the Clark conversation, it amplifies it. It turns a simple story into a controversy that overshadows everything else. Instead of focusing on the Liberty's future, the entire league looks fragile. Like one compliment about Caitlin Clark is enough to send it into chaos. That's not strength, that's insecurity. And that's why fans are stunned. Not just because Brondello is out, but because the WNBA exposed its own weakness in the process. They basically told the world that even championship coaches aren't safe if they step outside the script. Fans see it, they don't respect it. Think about it, Sandy Brondello delivered New York its first title, and she still got tossed, allegedly for praising Caitlin Clark. If that doesn't scream insecurity, what does? Fans know the truth. Clark reshaped the game, and no amount of politics will change that. So tell me what you think in the comments. And if you're tired of the drama, hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns.